learning the kettlebell snatch. Snatch means lifting a weight, and the weight doesn't matter whether it's a kettlebell or a barbell or a sandbag or whatever. Lifting a weight from below your hips to the overhead position in one clean movement. So not get underneath it, press it up, but everything is thrown up in one clean movement. That's a snatch. When we're talking about kettlebell snatch, we assume these are all prerequisites to actually snatching it. And these can be great practices during snatch cycle. If you don't have these yet, get all of these first, starting with a two-handed swing, one-handed swing, and especially one-handed swing with the active scap or the acceleration pull. And that pull happens right after the bell comes out, leaves my body, and then I pull it up rather than pulling it from between my legs. So I swing it and then I pull. It's a wave up and then down. So one arm swing with a scap pull, clean, because a clean and a snatch are both swings to a catch. I have insertion, I catch and land the bell here. You have to have a clean before you can snatch, because you're not throwing it up as high. So the clean is a little easier to catch than the snatch in the overhead position. And then finally a one-arm high swing with an active scap. So one-arm high swing doesn't mean my arm is dead and flying out away. Active scap, and notice how I'm presenting my center both on the way up and on the way down. So I don't want to have my butt back here. This means I'm going to be lifting with my upper body rather than throwing it from my center. By center, I mean my pelvis, my hips. So all of those, swing, one arm swing with the scap pull, cleans, and one arm high swings are all prerequisites to starting in the snatch. So the snatch will begin with a vertical snatch, which means pulling straight up overhead. Now, this is going to be a lot more difficult from a power perspective than with a backswing. These can be done hanging, which means my bell doesn't touch the ground, a little easier, or these can be from a dead position, which means the weight is lying dead on the ground, not live in a hanging position. And here I'll have to use a lot more force to generate getting into the overhead. The vertical, so both are great practices by themselves, especially for building more power generation. But both of them help you practice the insertion from hook grip to rack in the overhead position without having to add all the timing and the complexity of the curve of the backswing. Again, if you use the analogy of math, straight lines is like doing algebra, and curves is calculus. So it's a lot more complex. Get your algebra first before you start working on calculus. So the swing snatch would be the next. After you're doing the vertical snatch, whether hanging or dead, it also has something to do with how well you can hinge and how deep you can hinge without starting to use your back and turtling. But a half snatch just means that I'm going to snatch to the overhead position, and then I'm going to bring it back down to rack, and then start my snatch again. What I'm also doing, and these work hand in hand as a step, is I'll do one swing in between, swing, and then snatch. Swing, and snatch. So the swing snatch helps reconnect power from legs and hips from down below, so that you're not just heaving this up. It's not an upper body exercise. Not just heaving it up with your upper body strength. And the half snatch helps make the downward a lot more smooth. So you just focus on the way up versus the way down. And they can be done together. If you're doing half snatch, you might also be doing swing snatch. Then finally, we'll just do half snatch, one swing up, trying to load my hips and then explode up. Load my hips, Notice I'm directing everything from the center. Foot pressure and projection from the center, that's where my power comes from. When you get comfortable with these and you feel like you're generating force, then we'll start doing the full snatch, which means all the way up to the overhead position, and then reaching forward and then letting the bell drop back down to my body. I'm going to wait for my arm to reconnect before I go back. I am not going to do this. Ugh. Back already does not like this. So wait. Everything connects. Connect on the way down. Stay connected on the way up. You'll transfer a lot more force into the bell, make it smoother, faster, more fluid, and more powerful. Things to think about. There's the insertion, getting soft. You're catching the bell out in front of you. You're not catching it at the overhead position. So don't throw it back and then try to catch it overhead. You catch it out in front of you and then it glides back to your overhead position. So catch it in front, glides back. People talk about 7 is the acceleration pull and 11 is the insertion to catch. So these two angles are where I'm going to do some stuff with my upper body. I'm going to accelerate, and then I'm going to insert, and then I'm going to glide and land it back to the top. 7, and 11 in terms of hands on the clock. For all of these, the lean and the connection, I'm going to lean back from my feet, not from my back. I'm going to lean back and let my center wait for reconnection before I go into my backswing. On the way up, I'm going to press my center forward and I'm going to lean back as I'm waiting to get underneath that bell. So leaning my whole body will give me a lot more counterbalance as the weight is in motion. And then lastly, the power comes from down below. It is not a little swing and then meatball it up with my arm. This has to come from down below. When I'm doing one arm, opposite leg. This is a spiral. My right hand is connected to my right leg and hip. And that's where the power comes from. When I switch, now right side powers up the bell when it's in my left hand. Kettlebell snatch.